Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the second day of July, 2019. Well, today's the new moon, so you can spend this time going within and thinking about bringing things into balance. It's a time of new beginnings, initiate new projects maybe. Set your intention to be fulfilled on the full moon. So lots of different things you can do today. But one thing I wanted to mention yesterday, and you might want to incorporate, the reason I'm saying is because you might want to incorporate it into whatever workings you want to do today, if you're so inclined. Some people just like on the new moon to just sit and think and go within and meditate and just sort of, kind of bring everything to a still point and maybe plan the next month, out for yourself, the next lunar period anyway, out for yourself. And given that it's a Tuesday, you can, this is martial energy, it's Mars energy. So, it's initiative. So it's perfect on the new moon to initiate new things, new ideas, new behavior, maybe a new perception, letting go of things that don't serve you any longer, that aren't working any longer. And we've seen a trend of that, a move away from division and hate and more toward unity with others. Yesterday, the geomancy rune at the end of the reading, again, was conjunctio, and we had that twice last week. So it's basically about unity and joining, coming together in shared purpose. And that seems to be the trend of the cards these days. So we'll see what today brings. This is your first time here, welcome. Thank you so much for coming by. Click subscribe. I'd love you to do that. And do check out my blog, Stepping Aside, over at imsteppingaside.com. The lunar transits are up. The monthly tarot is up. The monthly geomancy reading is up. So you can check those things out and see what that's all about. So let's get started, though, and see what we have for today. And if you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. And as you know, I take the 13th card each time. I like this to be random, and I'm either going to draw 3 or 4 cards. It just depends. If I feel like I need a 4th card, then I'll do that. And then I'll do a rune. I'll pull a rune out of the bag, and we'll look at that. And then I'll create a geomancy rune, and we'll see what that has to say. So, but to begin with here, we have the 11th card of the major arcana, Justice. We have a 2 energy today. Again, reinforcing the 7 energy for the month of bringing things into balance. And we see the same here with Justice. We see the left hand holding the scales, the receptive side of self, the projective side of self is holding the sword, pointing to spirit. We just see the sense of 2 pillars right there. It may be part of the throne that the Lady Justice is sitting on. But 11 is the master number for illumination. And Justice really is the illuminating, it provides illumination, doesn't it? It defines things. Defines things in terms of what's right and what's wrong, what works for everyone and what doesn't. We've seen a lot of injustice of late. Collectively, we've seen it, whether it's our Secretary of State allegedly sending Secret Service to pick up his dog at the groomer or the vet or whatever, or to go and pick up fast food for him. There's a lot of injustices going on. You look at what's going on at the border, and it's terrifying. And it's heartbreaking, and it's disgusting to even see these things happening to other human beings, let alone to children. So we're having a lot of issues of justice. Maybe you have some in your personal life. Maybe things are, you're trying to find some kind of solution that preserves the preserves truth, that preserves honor, that preserves dignity, that is about, you know, what's right. We've had experiences where we cannot believe the situations we find ourselves in. And it all stems from somebody who decides that they want something they're not entitled to, and then they go and they encroach, right? So, I mean, this could be indicating something as simple as maybe an issue with a neighbor, like a property issue or something, a boundary issue where your neighbor wants to do things on your property that you don't want them doing. It's because it's your property, right? We've had that's happened in our lives. And so, maybe you seek a legal remedy. So justice could indicate that there's a legal remedy that needs to be possibly gone after in your life. We're seeing a lot of things with respect to the country, though, where we're not really sure what the courts are going to do anymore, are we? Seems like the lower courts seem to have some integrity, but then it gets to the Supreme Court, and it's anybody's guess. They've become the wild card when they should have been the balancing influence, right? So we're exploring a lot of things, vis-a-vis justice these days, aren't we? Let's draw another card, see what we can add to the idea here. And I don't know if I said this, but I always take the 13th card. You don't have to. I just want it to be random. I was born on the 13th, and 13 is everywhere in my life for some strange reason. So anyhow, that's what I do. Well, here we have the 4 of Swords. So again, swords is also representative of justice. That's the air element, integrity, leadership. Well, leadership could also be fire element as well. But here we have integrity and we have with swords. But here we're taking a respite out. He's not dead. He's just laying there for a little while, letting his mind settle, his thoughts settle, just taking a little bit of a respite out. You see a stained glass window up there on the upper left there of the card. Is it the upper left? Yeah, the upper left of the card. And I'm looking at it backwards, so I have to be sure. You see the stained glass window up there, and that's sort of indicating, it might indicate church or something like that. So he could be, resting in a chapel or something, just healing his mind, allowing spirit to transform his thoughts. We kind of have an as above, so below energy exchange here because we see 3 swords coming downward from spirit. And then we have here, this is the horizontal plane. So balancing polarity within. 4 is about structure. It can indicate the 4 elements. So again, structure. Bringing things into alchemical balance, if you will. But if issues of justice are arising for us today, or this has to do with what's going on in our country or the world or what have you, whatever it is that you're concerned about vis-a-vis justice, it just seems like we need to maybe take a time out and really let our thoughts settle about what's going on. I think that we're given a lot of disinformation, otherwise known as fake news. Used to be called disinformation. Propaganda, things like that, outright lies, we can call it that. And it just seems like it doesn't make any difference what the truth is. They're just going to throw whatever, they can think of, against the wall and see what sticks. So I think it's very difficult, when you've got a lot of that going on. And so where issues of justice are coming up, then we really need to clear out the noise, don't we? And let everything settle. And then figure out what the real truth is. I think it's a pretty good bet that we can't believe anything the government is saying, or at least the current administration. I won't say the government because we have people that are trying to deal with all this stuff, and right the ship. But right now that's not possible. So it's going to be up to us to discern and to figure out truth from fiction. But the fiction is designed to keep these people in control and designed to keep them making as much money as possible before this wild ride is over, because that's what this is about. People are making money. And it's not, the average American. So that's why this hasn't, and that's why you see all these bizarre things happening that have never happened before. It's like, wait a minute. Why would this guy's daughter be in the center of world leaders in a world leader picture? What's going on? We don't do that here. Except now we do. So again, lots of weird things happening that make zero sense. So you have to ask yourself, what is it sustaining? What is it protecting? So that's where I think the Four of Swords comes in. You have to figure this out for yourself. You're going to have to maybe let go of some of your perceptions and start looking for things that let it resonate. Does it sound true? You really think it's true? Yeah, that's how you ask yourself. Is that really true? Yeah, that doesn't feel right. Much as I might want to believe him, that doesn't feel right. That doesn't sound right. I know personally that isn't right. So if I can't believe that, what else can't I believe? So I think that that's where the energy is going right now. And so with the Four of Swords, it's just asking us to take a time out and let our thoughts settle and try to find some healing space in there to know the truth, no matter how much it might hurt inside. Okay. And I think for a lot of people, well, I think for anybody probably, when you realize you've been hoodwinked by somebody, when you realize that you've been conned, it doesn't feel very good. Sometimes we feel stupid, but what we fail to, in other words, we own their behavior. It's the dumbest thing we can do. Instead of getting angry and being outraged that somebody could go and try to manipulate us all this way, instead we feel, oh my God, that can't possibly be true. And so we hang in there with them, even though we know that it's not okay. Problem is, we don't get to the solution of all this, do we? We don't right the ship. I mean, isn't it better to know the truth about this? Isn't it better? No matter how silly we might feel or foolish we might feel, let go of that. You're not silly. You're not foolish. You believed a con man. He conned you. It's no different. It's the same kind of response when someone is sexually assaulted or molested as a child, perhaps. You feel like you're responsible for it, that you did something somehow either to deserve it or to cause it. And we never put the burden on the predator, do we? Never put the burden on the predator. It always goes on us, doesn't it? The victim. Well, don't allow that this time. Don't allow it. Stand up. You did nothing wrong by believing this man. Nothing. Nothing wrong. It was him. He lied to you. He was so convincing. He lied to you. It's not your fault. It's no one's fault. People believed what they believed. We need to let it all go and see the truth now. So take this time today, over the next few days, and let your mind settle. Start thinking about what makes sense and what doesn't. Research, do a little research. No, homelessness didn't begin 2 years ago, and no, he didn't fix it. It's a lie. And it's such a silly lie that we all ought to laugh right out loud at him. Turn our backs to him. Wake up. Let's do another card. Well, here we have another 4. And again, this is what we have to break free from if we expect justice to take hold. The whole notion of the rule of law. It's how the country doesn't descend into chaos. That's why we have it. Now you can disagree with this law or that law, but for the sake of argument, we have to have them, right? Or we have nothing but anathema. Well, here we have the 4 of Cups, and here we have a hand reaching out from the clouds, a typical theme in tarot. This time holding a chalice, offering of emotional security, you could say. Cups is about our emotions. the water element, about change, intuition, balance, movement. But here he's sitting with his back up against what looks like an oak tree. His arms and legs are crossed. So he's in a defensive posture. In a sense, he's kind of having a pity party or maybe a pout, but he can't see what's being offered to him. He's turned his back on all this. It could be that he doesn't see what's being offered, but it could be that he's actually sitting back and saying, no, I'm going to let my emotions settle. So here we have both head and heart. We're going to do a fourth card that's involved in the notion of justice. 4 and 4 is 8, so you have a greater sense of strength and leadership and higher self-awareness with that. Coupled with the 11, you have, that would be what, 11 and 8 is 19, so 1 is, so that goes down to 1, which is new beginnings. So again, we need a return or a new beginning with justice as the foundation. And to make that happen, though, because we've gotten so far off track, we need to have head and heart be in balance, intellect and emotions. We need to be able to reason this out without all the noise and chaos that's surrounding us right now. We need to have our emotions settle about it because, after all, when you look, it's like when I remember Nora Ephron. She's since passed. She's a writer. And she, I believe it was Nora Ephron, she talked about, being so devoted to Bill Clinton. And then all of the nonsense happened, right? And the impeachment and all of that. People were so thrilled to have Bill Clinton in office. And then he goes and he does these things, right? And it sort of shatters our view of him. It shattered her view of him. And I believe it was her that said this. But if it wasn't, then I apologize to the one who did, because it was really profound. Because the way it was written, in fact, I think I read it in her book. I think it was Nora Ephron's book. And the idea was that she believed all of this about him. She was so thrilled to have him in office. He was doing such great things for the country. And then he did this. In other words, he was a guy with failings. What guy doesn't have failings? What woman doesn't have failings? We all do. We expect perfection out of these people, and we're not going to ever get it. But there still has to be some level of understanding of who they are, right? Before we go and vote for them. And I'll guarantee you, we never know them. As much as we think we do, we never know them. And in the case of the current guy, all kinds of people knew who he was, but he was so slick at selling it that people just believed him. They thought, this is who he is. He's one of us. No, he's not. No, he's not. But to let go of that, to come to the realization that someone you put your faith and trust in, I guess that's what I'm trying to say here. It gives you pause when you realize that you can't, when it was misplaced, because they're just too far gone, really, to rise to the occasion and actually be who it was they said they were. And I think that's what we've got right now. And it's, you look around, just if you look around at the border situation alone, there's so much injustice going on there. It's like, who are we now? Well, we're that. That's who we are. We're the kind of people who reelect Congress members that are so compromised monetarily, financially with these other countries, that they're basically enacting laws and policies to benefit all of them, but not benefiting us. Oh, they might fool themselves, but no, though, that's not what's happening. So it's time now, if we want the justice to return, we're going to have to let head and heart settle, and we're going to have to figure this out and let go of preconceived notions and beliefs that we truly believed were right. It's not our fault. It just happened. But if we continue down that road, then we're going to bear some responsibility for this. So Let things settle. Let your emotions settle. Let your mind settle. Let your thoughts settle, and see if you can't find a way back to something that's based on justice instead of this weird division and focus on just trying to con everybody into believing because they need us to. They need us to believe the things they're saying so that they can stay there and take more. They're not done yet. My husband keeps saying, "Why is this taking so long?" I says, "Because they're not done yet. When they're all done getting what they want, then they'll release that guy to whatever, prison, whatever. It won't matter because they'll have achieved their purpose, all at our expense." Let's draw a fourth card. The Emperor. Again, another 4. So again, we're talking foundation structure, the underlying belief systems that we have, the underlying truth that we accept. All right. But here we have the Emperor. Doesn't really look you in the eye, does it? Does he? Holds a sunflower in one hand and a scepter in the other. Sunflower in his left, a receptive hand, the scepter in the other, his projective hand. You see ram's heads adorning his throne. Very Masonic looking. But the important part here with the Emperor is he doesn't seem to want to budge. He has his belief systems. Again, homelessness came up 2 years ago and I fixed it. No, people have been homeless forever. There's even a thing where he pointed out to his daughter one time. She did an interview and it's like she tells this story about how he points to them and they have more than he does. Don't tell me that the homelessness began 2 years ago. It didn't. But again, he's contained within his own self, isn't he? Let's do a rune. 3 4s are 12, and that's 3 numerologically, so that's manifestation, mind, body, spirit alignment. But if the Emperor is going to provide a foundation, then they can't lie about things. If the Emperor wants his strategy, which he doesn't have any, by the way, he just repeats things that he hears. That's all he does. But we need to rethink what authority is structurally in our lives, what power is in our lives. So when we're talking about justice here, are we truly getting that from the Emperor? Or is the Emperor's own issues just dominating everything to the point that justice just doesn't even seem to be there anymore? It's threatened, it's challenged, it's gone, whatever you want to see it as. Here we have Uruz, the second rune of the Elder Futhark, aligning with today's energy. Manifestation, change, decision, balance. It represents the oryx. Kind of looks like it, doesn't it? Like a big, huge bull. Its legs pointing down into manifestation, pointing down into form. What are we going to manifest here? Are we going to manifest justice in our lives, or are we going to cleave unto an emperor who does not understand how to lead? We have to rethink all of this, all that we have taken for granted, all that we've believed. We have to let go of that, perhaps, reevaluate it at the very least, and see if, in fact, what we thought was true really is. Set those down. Let me look here before I do the geomancy rune here. Let me look about one more thing about Uruz. Uruz represents drizzle, and I just love that, don't you? It represents drizzle. It isn't the force itself of manifestation. It's the forming force behind it. So it's the thought then behind what we're going to manifest. It's not the actual manifestation itself. It's the rune of changes. Let me find my light here. It's the rune of changes. It's about strength, endurance, courage, physical health, healing. But it's initiating things by the force of will. Now, when we let go of things that no longer serve, it sounds like it's easy to do, right? It's not. It takes the force of will to do that. And so when you're trying to let your thoughts and emotions settle, to try to figure out just what the heck has been going on here, and whether this is your personal life or whether it's, more globally and societally, whatever this is, the thought has to change, right? The perceptions have to change. And it's not so easy to do that. And so Uru's energy can help you do that. When you're meditating, when you're letting your thoughts and emotions settle, excuse me, you can chant Urus either silently or softly to yourself. Heck, yell it out if you have to. Whatever works. But it's the archetypal pattern of creation, energy shaping matter. But it's, the unmanifested pattern of matter, really, before it ever gets to that phase where it begins its manifestation. Everything begins on what we choose to think. Okay, that's where it all begins. We choose to think or believe we have a certain set of beliefs, and that's our world. That's the lens through which we see everything. And if that lens has been clouded by the actions of others, where you've truly thought that it sounded all right, it made sense to you, then you have to decide that no. And that issues of justice now are coming into play that maybe you didn't know before. Maybe you didn't see the natural consequences of one thing or another. And now justice is being, whether it's the Attorney General trying to undo pre-existing conditions for insurance, because think about it, if the insurance companies no longer have to cover pre-existing conditions, then why are we going to the doctor? Everyone has a pre-existing condition. Everyone. And now that the insurance companies all know about it because they had to cover it, well, guess what? Yeah. Did you think that would happen? Oh, no, we're going to get beautiful insurance. Right. It's about justice, folks. Being the 11th card of the major arcana, we're talking higher self informing here. Let's see what the geomancy rune is going to tell us today. Let's find fire. No, that's water. We've got 2 dots for fire, 1 for air, 2 for water, and 1 for earth. So what that is going to be is acquisitio, which is gain and of some kind, increase of some kind. It may mean profit, it may not, but it may just simply mean that the gain that we're going to achieve, I'm going to show you what this looks like here. I'll find it amongst all the runes. Is this it here? Yep. I used to draw these out, but that's kind of terrifying. So here, I'm a stick figure person. I don't know. I can barely do mind runes. I figure if I can do those, I'm fine, right? But if I have to draw, say, another type of sigil, if I'm copying one, like a planetary sigil or or say one from an Olympic spirit or a demon or whatever, well, it's anyone's guess. This is acquisitio. You see a balance between active and passive presences. The dual dot indicates a passive influence or presence, and the single dot indicates an active one. So here, all that's in balance, and that's increasing something in our lives. So increasing awareness, maybe when you go and that should be the point of the solitude you're going to go into here. Letting your mind and your thoughts settle and letting your heart just sort of, just become a little neutral about what's going on. Understand that that the effect of urus is one that will establish where you're going to go from here in terms of your belief system. It's just going to establish where you're going to go from here once you have a chance to really think about what's happened. Sometimes we forget that we do know things, you know. We can take that sense, you know, that empaths have and other psychic people have, you know, we're all that, whether you know it or not. The little intuition moments you have, the little moments of synchronicity where you're like, yeah, I knew that. That's because we're all spirit. People that are empathic or psychic or what have you, it's just that for some reason, we still connect to that. When we're not in physical form, that's how we communicate together. We communicate psychically, vibrationally. And so if you are, when you're taking this time out to just heal your mind, heal your thoughts, heal your heart, allow for that clarity to emerge from within. It's always been there. It's never going to fail you. But we get caught up in maybe belief systems that, you know, at the moment it seemed okay, but later on you're like, maybe that wasn't a good idea. It's okay. Allow for that change to take place. It's what's supposed to happen. Don't struggle against it. You know, the 4 can be about allowing, just allowing the proper structure to build for yourself, one that's based on truth and one that's based on spirit informing that process. So with that, then you have an increase of awareness. And I think that's what Acquisitio is telling us. It's telling us this, that, I mean, it can be, you know, increased profits. It can mean that. But I think in terms of the rest of this reading, I don't think that's what it's saying. I think it's talking about increased clarity, increased awareness. That's the goal of this, taking this time out, this meditative time out, to sort of, you know, take another look, take stock, take another look at what's really going on and see if it all makes sense to you. And then if it doesn't, then begin the urus. Bring urus, manifest urus, and begin the process of thinking something else. Okay? Allow those thoughts that no longer work for you to just fall away and replace it with something that's more meaningful. So anyhow, I guess that's it for today. We'll be back tomorrow and we'll talk again. But I think so far we're kind of in this process of transformation and maybe transmuting something that was into something that needs to be. You know, maybe something that wasn't so good needs to be transmuted into something better. So anyhow, lots of things to do on the new moon. And given that it's in Cancer, well, it's going to be emotional. So it doesn't surprise me that the 4 of Cups is here. What I find surprising, though, is the 11, the 4, the 4, the 4. That's what I find surprising. So clarity and illumination, understanding, involving our structure of who we are, our foundation of who we are together as one. Anyhow, thanks so much for stopping by. We'll see you tomorrow. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.